Good afternoon, colleagues. So firstly, welcome to this mini workshop on financial reporting. My name is Melisha Munsami. I'm one of the project accountants at the Research and Development Department. You can find me if you're ever looking for me at the third floor of the Admin C building or at the Kratoa building. The objective of today's workshop is just to gain a high-level understanding of financial reporting and the policies surrounding it. There was a workshop, I think, that was presented in August by my colleague Zenkosi. She would have provided a high-level overview of budgeting and how to complete a full cost budget at the start of your project. So what are your reporting basics? Firstly, you need to make sure the contract does in fact state that there's a reporting requirement. If that is so, then we encourage you to then, on day one, build a relationship with your funders support staff so that you make sure that you understand what your funders' guidelines are. For example, some funders may disallow certain expenditures, things like equipment or salaries, or even things like entertainment. Or if they do allow certain things like salaries, they may have a requirement that you keep a record of your time that is spent on the project. And so you would need to make sure that you record and account for that. It's also important to remember that you should expense against your budget lines so that you make sure that you are reporting as per your budget. And then familiarize yourself with the various policies, such as the ICRR policy, the VAT policy, and the consultancy fees policies, which have been updated and implemented at the beginning of last year. So why is financial reporting important? Just basically, it helps the funders to track and analyze how funds are being spent and if it is used for its intended purpose or project. What is important to remember that for new projects, going forward, a project will be opened under the new projects and grants module. A new project is basically a project that has a new researcher, a new funder, and a new contract. If it is an existing project or a continuation of a project, then cost centers are still being used. When you receive funds, you must remember that funds should never be mixed. That means there should never be more than one funder's money in a project. And when you're making payments, it should not be made to or from different cost centers. In the new PNG module, it will be difficult to mix funds as spending can only occur against the approved budget. So that will be more streamlined. When recording transactions, all transactions must be included and classified correctly as either an income or an expense, and every transaction must be recorded in the correct period. So remember that transactions must be correct, complete, and accurate. If there are inaccuracies with the recording of incomes, it greatly affects the university's calculation of income received in advance. So what does it mean for a transaction to be correct, complete, and accurate? It basically means that the financial transactions are recorded correctly, that the information presented is reliable, and it's free from errors or misstatements. So depending on the type of project that you have, you can either spend and claim, or you can receive funds at the initial stage. On the PNG module, this will be checked against your approved budget and assigned agreement. It's also important to remember to invoice your funders for the income that is received. Your invoice details should reflect what you are receiving and for which period. When it comes to the expenses, please remember to retain all your electronic copies of those expenditures or costs. If an audit is required, the finance department must be notified by September or October. Usually an audit requirement is stated in the contract, and it can either be a compulsory audit requirement or the funder may have the right to request an audit. If an external audit is required, we need to be informed well in advance so that Renette, who is the financial director, would be able to inform the university's auditors who are currently EY, and they would need to include it in their schedule. Please note that this is only applicable if the funder does not specify that they are going to appoint their own auditors. And Stellenbosch University also does not perform any internal audits, only external audits. So what is the contractual responsibility of you as the PI and how it affects Stellenbosch University's credibility? The PIs are to be aware of your funder's requirements and to make sure that the project is running smoothly and that the admin surrounding it is done correctly, so that when finance receives the information, it is correct and it will stop us from having any delays. It's also your responsibility to remember when the reports are due and to ensure that the reporting is done correctly and to notify us well in advance when a report is due. As when we report, it is very important that we adhere to our IFRS framework and other relevant legislation. This is important because when statistics are calculated or collected from the universities by institutions like R&D or Clarivate, incorrect use of the legislation will affect our rating as a university on various platforms. So what should you do? Very important to ensure that all your transactions are recorded on the system and in the correct period. That if there's any reallocation of transactions, that they are processed before the reporting period. And if you have any commitments, remember that it can only be included if a goods received note has been generated. Please allow finance 10 working days or sufficient time to review. Currently, finance requires 10 working days to produce, review, and sign off a report. But that is provided that the information that we have is correct and that there's no adjustments that need to be done. Renette Ace is the Director of Finance. She is currently the only authorized signatory of the financial reports at this stage. So if sufficient time is not given to us, it will be very difficult for us to adhere to a funder's deadline. I've just included on this slide some of the links to the templates and further information on things like the financial policies or if you require to apply for a reduction of the ICRR. At any stage of the financial reporting process, please contact either Zenkosi or myself. We're always willing to provide guidance to assist you so that the process can become easier for you and for us. For those of you who know Suzette, you can also contact her. She will also be able to provide you with guidance. Thank you, everyone. That is the end of my presentation. I'll open the floor for questions. You are also welcome to pop me an email if you have any questions, if you think of something later on.